The Legacy of the Hollow. Chapter 1. The Fall. The autumn sun dipped low over the sprawling fields of Oak Ridge Farm, casting a golden hue over the rows of corn and wheat. For Sam Thompson, this was the most sacred time of year, harvest season. It was a time of hard work, but also of gratitude, when the land gave back what it had been given all year. Sam, now in his late 60s, had spent his entire life on this farm. He knew every inch of the land, the way the creek flowed after a heavy rain, the best spots for wild blueberries, and the exact moment when the corn was ready to be picked. It was a life he cherished, one that grounded him in ways nothing else could. But this harvest felt different. His hands, once strong and steady, now trembled slightly as he gripped the steering wheel of his old tractor. The arthritis was getting worse, and the long days in the fields were taking their toll. His wife Evelyn had been urging him to retire, to sell the farm and move into town where life would be easier. But the thought of leaving Oak Ridge filled Sam with a deep, unshakable sorrow. "This farm is your life," Evelyn would say, her voice gentle but firm. "But it shouldn't be your death." Sam knew she was right, but how could he let go of something that had been in his family for generations? This land was more than just soil and crops. It was his heritage, his identity. As he turned off the tractor and climbed down, he noticed something in the corner of the field, a patch of corn that had wilted prematurely. He knelt down, running his fingers over the brittle stalks. Something was wrong. "Sam!" He turned to see Evelyn hurrying toward him, her face pale. She held out his cell phone. "It's the bank. They need to speak with you." Sam's heart sunk. He knew what this call was about. The farm had been struggling for years, and despite his best efforts, the debts had piled up. He took the phone, his hands trembling even more now. "Mr. Thompson, we've reviewed your account, and I'm afraid we can't extend the loan any further. If you can't make the payment by the end of the month, we'll have to foreclose." Sam didn't respond. He just handed the phone back to Evelyn and walked toward the house, his mind racing. He had worked so hard, sacrificed so much, and now it was all slipping through his fingers. That night, as he sat on the porch with a cup of coffee, he stared out at the fields, his heart heavy. He couldn't lose this farm. He wouldn't. But how could he save it? Chapter 2. The Stranger. The next morning, Sam awoke to the sound of tires crunching on gravel. He stepped onto the porch, squinting against the morning sun to see a sleek black SUV pulling up the driveway. It wasn't a vehicle he recognized, and visitors to Oak Ridge Farm were rare. A man stepped out, tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit that seemed out of place in the rural setting. He smoothed his tie and approached the porch with a confident air, his polished shoes clicking against the gravel. "Mr. Thompson," he said, extending a hand. "My name is Victor Langston. I'm with Langston Development." Sam took the man's hand reluctantly, his calloused fingers contrasting sharply with Victor's smooth grip. "What can I do for you, Mr. Langston?" "I'll get straight to the point," Victor said, adjusting his cufflinks. "We've been eyeing this property for a while. It's prime real estate, and we'd like to buy it from you." Sam's stomach dropped. He had heard of Langston Development. They were the company behind the sprawling housing developments that had been cropping up all over the county. They were known for buying up farmland, tearing down the old structures and replacing them with rows of identical houses. "I'm not selling," Sam said firmly, crossing his arms over his chest. "I understand the sentimental value, Mr. Thompson, but you're sitting on a gold mine. We're prepared to offer top dollar, enough to ensure you and your wife live comfortably for the rest of your lives." "I'm not selling," Sam repeated, his voice rising. Victor's smile faded, replaced by a cold, calculating look. "Times are changing, Mr. Thompson. Farmers like you are becoming relics of the past. You can't fight progress forever." "I'm not trying to fight progress," Sam said. "I'm trying to protect my legacy." Victor sighed, as if dealing with a stubborn child. "I'll give you some time to think about it, but my offer won't be on the table forever." He handed Sam a business card, then turned and walked back to his SUV. Sam watched as the vehicle disappeared down the driveway, his hands clenched into fists. Evelyn stepped onto the porch, her arms crossed. "Who is that?" "Someone who wants to take everything we've worked for," Sam said bitterly. "Maybe we should listen to what he has to say," Evelyn said quietly. Sam turned to her, his brow furrowed. "You're not seriously considering selling? Are you?" Evelyn hesitated. "Sam, we can't keep going like this. The bank's about to foreclose and you're wearing yourself out trying to keep this place afloat. Maybe it's time to let go." Sam's heart ached at her words. He wanted to argue, to tell her they could find a way to save the farm, but deep down, he knew she was right. He was tired of fighting a losing battle, tired of watching the farm he loved slowly fall apart. But he wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. That afternoon, Sam drove into town to meet with Bill Henderson, an old friend and the owner of Henderson Hardware. Bill had always been a sounding board for Sam, offering advice and support when things got tough. "I don't know what to do, Bill," Sam said as they sat in the back room of the store. "Victor Langston wants to buy the farm, and Evelyn thinks we should sell." Bill leaned back in his chair, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "Langston is a snake, Sam. He'll promise you the world, but he'll leave this town in ruins. You can't let him win." "But how do I stop him?" Sam asked, desperation creeping into his voice. Bill hesitated, then leaned forward. "There's a way. The Hollow." Sam's eyes widened. The Hollow? A mysterious patch of land at the edge of Oak Ridge Farm had been untouched for decades? It was said to be cursed, a place where strange things happened. "What about it?" Sam asked. "Rumor has it there's something valuable there. Something that could save your farm, if you're brave enough to find it." Sam frowned. The Hollow had always been off limits, a place he avoided out of superstition and fear. But now, with everything on the line, he didn't have much of a choice. "Thanks, Bill," Sam said, standing up. "I'll look into it." As he drove back to the farm, his mind raced. The Hollow was a risk, but it might be his only hope. Chapter 3. The Hollow. The Hollow lay at the edge of Oak Ridge Farm, a dense, shadowy patch of forest that seemed to breathe with a life of its own. Even in the bright daylight, the trees seemed to huddle together, their gnarled branches forming a canopy that swallowed the sun. The air here was colder, quieter, as though the world held its breath. Sam stood at the edge of the Hollow, his boots sinking into the soft earth. He hadn't set foot in this place since he was a boy, when his father had warned him never to go near it. "Some things are best left alone," his father had said, his voice low and serious. Sam had never questioned it, until now. He carried a rusty shovel in one hand and a flashlight in the other, though he doubted he'd need it. The sun was still high, but the dense trees ahead promised darkness. Behind him, Evelyn stood with her arms crossed, her brow furrowed with worry. "Sam, this is crazy. You don't even know what's in there. What if it's dangerous?" "What's dangerous is doing nothing," Sam replied, his voice steady. "If there's something in the Hollow that can save the farm, I have to find it." Evelyn sighed, but she didn't argue. She knew better than anyone how stubborn Sam could be when he set his mind to something. "Just be careful," she said softly. Sam nodded, then turned and stepped into the hollow. The change was immediate. The sunlight faded, replaced by a dim, eerie glow. The air smelled of damp earth and decaying leaves, and the silence was deafening. Every step Sam took seemed to echo, though the ground was soft and thick with moss. He didn't know what he was looking for, only that Bill had mentioned something valuable. He wandered deeper into the hollow, his shovel at the ready, scanning the ground for anything out of the ordinary. The trees seemed to watch him, their twisted trunks resembling faces frozen in silent screams. After what felt like hours, Sam stumbled upon a clearing, a small, circular patch of land where the trees parted, revealing the sky above. In the center of the clearing was a stone well, its edges crumbling with age. Sam approached it cautiously, his heart pounding in his chest. The well was ancient, its stones covered in moss and vines. Sam peered over the edge, but the interior was too dark to see anything. He shined his flashlight into the well, but the beam barely reached halfway down. He could hear the faint sound of water trickling somewhere far below. As he straightened up, something caught his eye, a glint of metal near the base of the well. He knelt down and brushed away the dirt, revealing a small, rusted box. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was an old, weathered map. Sam unfolded it carefully, his eyes widening as he realized what it was. It was a map of Oak Ridge Farm, but not the farm as it was now. This map was from decades ago, and it showed something he had never seen before. A series of tunnels running beneath the land, with markings indicating something hidden deep underground. Sam's mind raced. Could this be what Bill was talking about? Could there be something buried beneath the farm that could save it? He tucked the map into his jacket and stood up, his heart pounding with excitement. But as he turned to leave, a chill ran down his spine. He felt as though he was being watched. The trees around the clearing seemed to close in, their branches creaking ominously. The air grew colder, and a low guttural sound echoed through the hollow, like the growl of an animal, but deeper, more menacing. Sam's grip tightened on the shovel as he scanned the trees, his flashlight beam darting through the shadows. "Who's there?" he called, his voice trembling despite his best efforts to sound brave. There was no reply, only the sound of something moving through the underbrush, something large. Sam's instincts screamed at him to run, but his legs felt rooted to the ground. Then, from the darkness, a pair of glowing eyes emerged. They were low to the ground, but they were too large to belong to any animal Sam had ever seen. The growling grew louder, and the eyes began to move closer. Sam didn't wait to see what was coming. He turned and ran, his flashlight swinging wildly as he crashed through the trees. The sound of pursuit was close behind him, too close. He could hear the snapping of branches and the heavy thud of footsteps. He burst out of the hollow and into the sunlight, nearly colliding with Evelyn. She screamed as she saw the terror on his face. "Sam, what happened?" she asked, grabbing his arm. "We need to go," Sam gasped, clutching the map to his chest. "Now." As they hurried back to the farmhouse, Sam glanced over his shoulder. The hollow was silent once more, its shadows still and unbroken. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him, something that wasn't ready to let him go. Chapter 4. The Map. Back at the farmhouse, Sam spread the map out on the kitchen table, smoothing its edges with trembling hands. Evelyn hovered nearby, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. She hadn't stopped asking questions since they'd returned from the hollow, but Sam was too focused on the map to answer. The map was detailed, showing the entire property of Oak Ridge Farm, including the fields, the creek, and the woods. But what drew Sam's attention were the tunnels, an intricate network of underground passages that seemed to converge beneath the farmhouse itself. Several spots were marked with cryptic symbols, an X, a circle, and what looked like a star. "What do you think it means?" Evelyn asked, leaning over the table. "I'm not sure," Sam admitted, tracing one of the tunnels with his finger. "But if there's something buried down there, it could be worth a lot of money, maybe enough to save the farm. Or it could just be an old map someone forgot about," Evelyn said skeptically. "I'm not sure," Sam admitted, tracing one of the tunnels with his finger. "But if there's even a chance this map could lead to something, I have to try." Evelyn didn't argue, but she didn't look convinced either. "Just promise me you'll be careful, after what you saw in the hollow." "I'll be careful," Sam assured her. The next morning, Sam enlisted the help of Charlie, a local handyman in his late 50s who had been a friend of the family for years. Charlie was a practical man, not prone to superstition, but even he looked uneasy when Sam showed him the map. "You sure about this, Sam?" Charlie asked, scratching his beard. "Digging around in unknown tunnels isn't exactly safe." "It's our best shot," Sam said, "and I'll pay you for your time, of course." Charlie hesitated, then nodded. "All right, but if we find a dead body, I'm out." They decided to start with the closest marked spot, a tunnel entrance near the old barn. The map indicated it was one of the main access points, though Sam had never noticed anything unusual about that area before. With shovels and flashlights in hand, Sam and Charlie began digging. The ground was soft, and it didn't take long for them to hit something solid. A wooden trap door, warped and splintered with age. "Well, I'll be," Charlie muttered, as they cleared away the dirt. The trapdoor was heavy, but together they managed to pry it open. Beneath it was a narrow set of stone steps descending into darkness. Sam shined his flashlight down the staircase, but the beam didn't reach the bottom. "You ready for this?" Charlie asked, looking at Sam. "As ready as I'll ever be." They descended the stairs carefully, the air growing colder and damper with each step. The walls were lined with moss, and the faint sound of dripping water echoed through the tunnel. At the bottom, they found themselves in a small chamber with a low ceiling. The chamber was empty except for a single object, a rusted iron chest, its lid partially open. Sam's heart raced as he approached it, his flashlight shaking in his hand. "What do you think's in there?" Charlie asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Only one way to find out," Sam said. He knelt in front of the chest and lifted the lid. Inside was a collection of old objects, a leather-bound journal, a handful of gold coins, and a small, intricately carved wooden box. Sam picked up the journal and opened it carefully, the pages brittle with age. The first page contained a single line of handwriting, faded but still legible. "For those who seek to preserve the legacy of Oak Ridge." Sam's hands trembled as he flipped through the pages. The journal was filled with entries detailing the history of the farm, its founding, its struggles, and its secrets. But one entry stood out. "Beneath this land lies a treasure not of gold, but of knowledge. It is the key to our survival, but it must be protected. Only those who truly love this land can unlock its secrets." Sam looked up at Charlie, his eyes wide. "This isn't just about money. It's about something bigger." Charlie nodded slowly. "So what's next?" Sam turned back to the map, his mind racing. "We keep following the tunnels. There's more to this. I know it." Chapter 5. The Secret Beneath. The tunnels beneath Oak Ridge Farm were a labyrinth of twists and turns, each one leading deeper into the earth. Sam and Charlie moved cautiously, their flashlights cutting through the oppressive darkness. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth, and the only sound was the faint echo of their footsteps. Sam clutched the journal tightly, its pages filled with cryptic clues and warnings. The entry spoke of a great protector that guarded the tunnels and a test that had to be passed to uncover the true treasure. Sam couldn't shake the feeling that the glowing eyes he'd seen in the hollow were connected to the journal's warnings. "This place gives me the creeps," Charlie muttered, shining his flashlight down a narrow passage. "How far do you think these tunnels go?" "I don't know," Sam admitted, "but the map shows a central chamber. If there's a treasure, it'll be there." They came to a fork in the tunnel, and Sam consulted the map. "Left," he said, pointing down the narrower of the two paths. The passage led them to a large door made of iron, its surface covered with intricate carvings of trees and animals. In the center was a symbol that matched one of the markings on the map, a circle with a star inside. "This is it," Sam said, his voice barely above a whisper. The door was heavy, but together they managed to push it open. Beyond it was a vast chamber, its walls lined with shelves that held rows of books, jars filled with strange substances, and tools that looked like they belonged in a different century. In the center of the room was a pedestal, and on it rested a small, ornate box. Sam approached the box carefully, his heart pounding. He opened it to find a single ancient key inside. "What's that for?" Charlie asked, peering over his shoulder. "I don't know," Sam said, turning the key over in his hands. "But it's important." As he examined the key, a low, guttural growl echoed through the chamber. Sam spun around, his flashlight beam darting across the shadows. "What was that?" Charlie asked, his voice trembling. Before Sam could answer, the glowing eyes emerged from the darkness. 2, then 4, then 6. The creature stepped into the light, its form unlike anything Sam had ever seen. It was large, with the body of a wolf but the scales of a reptile. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and its mouth was filled with rows of razor-sharp teeth. "The protector," Sam whispered, recalling the journal's words. The creature lunged at them, its growl reverberating through the chamber. Sam and Charlie scrambled back, but there was nowhere to run. "Sam, what do we do?" Charlie yelled, his voice panicked. Sam's mind raced. The journal had mentioned that test, a way to prove their worth. He looked down at the key in his hand and then at the creature. "We're here to protect this land. We're not here to take. We're here to preserve." The creature stopped, its glowing eyes fixed on Sam. It tilted its head, as if to consider his words. Then, with a low growl, it stepped back, its form dissolving into shadows. Sam let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "What just happened?" Charlie asked, his face pale. "We passed the test," Sam said, gripping the key tightly. They left the chamber and followed the tunnels back to the surface. When they emerged, the sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the farm. Evelyn was waiting for them, her face filled with relief. "Did you find it?" she asked. Sam held up the key. "We did, and I think I know what it's for." He led them to the old barn where he found a hidden compartment in the floorboards. Inside was a lock, and the key fit perfectly. When they opened it, they found documents, deeds, land grants, and a letter from Sam's great-grandfather. The letter explained everything: the tunnels, the journal, and the protector. But most importantly, it revealed that Oak Ridge Farm was built on a rare mineral deposit, one that could be mined sustainably to provide income for generations. "This is it," Sam said, his voice filled with awe. "This is how we save the farm." Epilogue. Months later, Oak Ridge Farm was thriving. Sam had partnered with an environmental mining company to extract the minerals responsibly, ensuring the land remained unharmed. The tunnels were sealed, their secrets safe once more. Sam often thought about the protector and the test it had put him through. It had been a reminder of what truly mattered, not just the land but the legacy it represented. As he sat on the porch with Evelyn, watching the sun set over the fields, Sam felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. The farm was secure, its future bright, and for the first time in a long time, Sam felt like he was exactly where he was meant to be. The end.